Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead of them and their companies. I'm your host, Olivia Salmons, and in each episode we'll uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today I'm super excited to be joined by Sam Hindman, consultant and founder of Sam Hindman, where she helps individuals and leaders build clarity, confidence and direction in their work. Sam, welcome to Founders Future. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I really appreciate your time and I'm really excited to dive in and learn more about your journey.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you so much for having me. I'm also very excited to be here.
Awesome. So let's do this. And typically, like with all of my guests, I do actually like to start at the beginning. So if you don't mind taking me back to what it was that you were doing before you jumped into the coaching space, and then from there, what was the motivation behind it?
Yeah, absolutely. Just to clarify, while I do some one-on-one consulting, I'm actually primarily a ghostwriter. In that vein, in that kind of space, there is this sort of coaching element to it because it is a collaborative process because you're getting someone's voice down exactly. You need to be them and sound like them. But typically what I do is I take founders that are scattered, that are trying to scale, but just don't have the capacity for a full-time marketing hire,
Yeah.
and I take content off of their plate so they don't have to worry about that. Going back to the beginning though, so I am 23, so I'm very recently post-grad. I'm the first person in my family to go to college. And so, in a way, it was freeing to have no expectations.
Yeah.
Basically, when I got to school, from there, it was like anything that I do is raising the bar in a certain sense. But I was finding that since I was paying my way through school, it was really hard to find a job that was compatible with my classes. So, something that I began doing was going on a platform called Upwork, which you might have heard of before. It's a freelancer hiring platform, and doing just some simple writing stuff because I was a journalism major at the time. I knew that I wanted to go into some form of writing, but I actually had no idea that something like ghostwriting existed, at least not in the capacity that I do it. I think that
Yeah.
typically whenever you think of ghostwriting, you think of a novel or a full-length book, not something like an email newsletter or someone's LinkedIn posts. But on Upwork, I saw a listing for a job writing someone's LinkedIn content, and I was like, that's crazy. And so I took it, and from there, it cascaded into its own thing. I realized that if I was writing content for someone else on LinkedIn, I should probably be writing my own stuff. And through that visibility, the visibility that my own content creation brought me, and just the genuine connections that I started to make through that platform, I got more and more clients. And soon I was able to take it off of Upwork and just establish my own business, doing it solo. So I continued to do that until I graduated from college. And then I just jumped into it full time.
Love it. I love it. So, and pretty much ahead of the college game as well, because having a career you can jump into while you're still in that kind of setup and that college system is pretty get going. And yeah, copywriting is such a big field, and people do limit it to publishing or to writing a book, to writing a film, but it's not. It's everything. Menu creation, as you say, like LinkedIn bios. There's so much that goes into the words that we need to use when it comes to marketing that it's such a big aspect. So let's dive into that a little bit more then. So walk me through at this point in the company, like who would you say is your ideal customer? What kind of people do you like to work with the most? And then from there, how is you help them and how do you support them?
Yeah, 100%. I find that I enjoy. So let me preface this by saying I do have some male clients who I think are fantastic, but I do find that I really enjoy working with women because this unique issue that women often have is this kind of inability to recognize their own strengths and an inability to highlight their own achievements. And perhaps more importantly, since we're in a business entrepreneurship world, a kind of inability to sell. They find it very gross and very hustle bro-y to advertise their services, to actually get clients to pay attention to them. I really like helping them overcome those roadblocks by pointing out to them certain things that are very valuable and that would genuinely demonstrate their ability to solve their clients' problems without it leaning into these sort of predatory sales and marketing tactics that are industry standard in a certain sense, but are quickly dying out. I think that organic content, organic social especially, is like the number one way to get clients and get customers that actually care about you. Because with the rise in AI, authenticity is like this big buzzword. And yeah, it's just really important for these people to be able to talk about themselves and their personal experiences. And I find that women have a hard time doing that. So that's something that I really enjoy doing. And in addition to that, something that I found fun and funny is that I was initially a journalism major and I really liked the interview aspect of journalism. I really liked that back and forth conversation and going into something knowing a little bit of background, but really nothing about this person or this story, and then coming out of it with this fully formed arc. And the only thing I didn't like was the kind of hard news aspects. So I think that ghostwriting and content creation combines everything that I loved about journalism with the freedom that comes with marketing in this really great way.
Yeah, so as you say, journalism can be twisting people's words to bend the story that you want to get from it, and obviously writing from that narrative. But yeah, when it comes to sales and specifically like women in sales, there's definitely an advantage there to doing that soft sales approach. As you say, they don't want to be too pushy. They don't have I feel like imposter syndrome is more of an effect for women than it is for men. So having that outsider's look and just that confidence, no, we can put this into words and we know where you want to get to. It's such a key element that people often overlook. As I said before, it's such an important skill. It really is. So with that being said, like how long do you typically tend to work with somebody? What is the process like to work with you, Sam?
Yeah, 100%. So we start out with a compatibility discovery call, pretty standard. And something that I really push for with my clients is starting out with a 3-month contract. And that's
Cool.
because with social, you cannot expect to see results in 30 days, right? You can't expect to go from never posting on your LinkedIn account to making tons of bookings and getting tons of sales in a 30-day window. And that is something that is a roadblock in some ways with new clients.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the 3-month period is so important, is because it is this kind of gradual increase. And if you're not doing any kind of like engagement pods, paid ads, etc., slow growth is real growth and
Yeah.
it's maintainable, consistent. I would rather have one of my clients consistently be getting, let's say, 50 to 70 engagements per post, then be doing like 20, 20, 20, 200, 20, 20. So it's a 90-day process. And yeah, it starts out with a discovery call, and something that I really like to prioritize with my clients since they have such little time and since that is such a big appeal of having a ghostwriter come on is minimal calls, mostly async. So we have a meeting every 2 weeks just to go over any big things that are coming up, any potential issues or bottlenecks, and also just getting a little bit more perspective because you can only write off of what you know. And if you're writing as someone, you need to keep up to date with them. But part of my promise that I give to clients is that they won't spend any more than an hour every week on their content, period. So we use like a Notion dashboard. I send over the deliverables, they look them over, and I just try to make it as smooth as possible, right? Because the last thing that you want is to hire someone to make something easier for you and then end up spending more time doing that thing. So,
Yeah. It goes back to what you're saying, saving them time with the sales call. If you then have to obviously or check-in calls when you're in the 3 months, if you're then having to go back and forth all the time for them to check the work as well. Yeah, we're here to save time, not to get more on your boat. But yeah, it's really good points that you're making. And then like even to go back to the organic like forum instead of obviously running ads, I feel like if you have both of them working in like harmony, you have such an amazing consistency in lead flow. So you need the copyright, you need the ghostwriting, you need the marketing on that front end, you need the organic content, you need to be consistent, and then just a little bit of ad spend on top so you aren't waving it in and out is a really nice approach to it. It just keeps it nice and smooth. But then in terms of the team and stuff, Sam, are you doing this all by yourself as well, or do you have some people helping you out on the back end of things? Like, what is the structure that you're working with at the moment?
so at the moment, that is actually my personal big bottleneck that I'm
Yeah.
trying to solve is that whenever you're doing this one-on-one work, even though it's so fulfilling and you do have the flexibility of being your own boss and making your own schedule, etc., there is a ceiling to that, right? You can only charge people so much for what you do in a way that is fair and reasonable, but also you only have so much time. Now I'm becoming the person that I I'm becoming my ICP in the sense that I'm reaching my own time capacity when it comes to content. So that's actually pretty much my main first Q1 goal for 2026 is onboarding a VA. I
Nice.
think that it's going to make my life a billion times easier. And I actually recently made an investment. I had a consulting call with a digital business manager who specializes in operations and asked her a bajillion questions about the hiring process and how to onboard someone. And it was so helpful. So I like cannot stress enough how helpful it is to just hire on an expert and pay them the amount of money that they're worth to just have them explain things to you because it's so much easier than like this Google rabbit hole where you're like chasing your own tail. So
Yeah.
yes, all by myself for right now, but hopefully soon we will be onboarding our first person, our first employee.
I love that. And it is like role reversal for you at the moment because you are in that sense where a lot of founders find themselves as the bottleneck. It's naturally going to happen when you are doing one-to-one. But as you say, how do I leave it in my time and still obviously provide my time to somebody else? So it's cutting that like middle bit in between. And then, so the team is expanding and we're growing. So then what are your plans for the future? What is that vision when you think of the end goal for yourself over the next like 6 to 12 months?
Over the next 6 to 12 months, ideally, I would like 2026 to be my first 100K year. That is that magic number that shows up in every solopreneur, self-employed person's lives is this idea of $100,000. And to me, it's a little bit deeper than that. To me, making six figures means almost that you've crossed this finish line that breaks these kinds of like generational boundaries that you've been given. Like my mom, she's worked retail her whole life. My dad, he worked construction his entire life. And so it feels if I hit that and if I just like, continue crushing it, then I'm winning for everybody. And so I'm really motivated by that. And even if I don't hit it next year, that is the kind of overall goal. I don't have anything ambitious in the sense of scaling to a full-size agency where I'm just the owner operator and there are writers under me because I am someone who does like to have her hands in the process and I don't necessarily think that I would like a company with my name on it to have other people doing the work. I know that is a model that is very profitable and lucrative, but it's just not the way that I roll. I think that something more realistic would probably be transitioning from just one-on-one client work into a group model or creating some kind of cohort. That's something that I have been thinking about, perhaps a community. I think that's just more, it's more me. And I think that it's a way to compromise those two things, making increased revenue while also staying true to the things that make my company my own.
Yeah, and I like that. And that's your vision and that's what aligns with you. So 100% go and shoot for that. But a group and a community, I really like the idea of because not only, as you say, can you increase your capacity and obviously help other people while not adding more millions of hours onto your week, but also you have a nice synergy of this community of people that are all in the same space where there are like women founders that are really looking to scale. You get such a good camaraderie from that feeling as well. So like for you to have that and to know that you're helping all these people meet other people and do the same thing, that will be a really nice fulfilling moment as well when you get to that point. And I'm saying when instead of if, like you did, because I know you'll get to that point. So it's not going to be far away from the six figures. And then where are you finding the biggest challenge for yourself at the moment, Sam? Because all of this seems very natural to you. So is there anything that's like a boundary that you're having to overcome when thinking about those next steps?
I suppose something that is very prevalent in my own life is that I personally, speaking about community and speaking about being around like-minded people, I'm the only person in my immediate kind of friend group and social circle that is self-employed and that is trying to enter the entrepreneurship space. And so whenever you don't have people in your day-to-day life who understand these kinds of really I hate to say these very lofty kind of ambitions and these lofty goals. It could be a little hard and it could be a little lonely. And in a certain sense, creating a group or a community is a little bit self-indulgent because I think that it will also help me find people who are equally as fiery and energetic and passionate because that's something that I'm lacking. And I think that's something that everyone needs. And I think
Yeah.
that's going to be not just in my own business, but just in business next year. getting people off their phones, getting people off of social media, getting people having conversations. Whenever it comes to like cohorts and groups and communities, people don't want to do self-paced stuff anymore. If you're selling, let's say, like a course, no one wants to just sit there and watch 7 hours of you talking. Even if the information that you're giving is super valuable, people don't want that. People want live sessions. People want you to actually be talking to them. They want to feel like they're actually getting like some form of community out of it. And that is like my big focus for next year.
I love it. So just surrounding ourselves with all them similar kind of mindsets and people moving forward. I really like it. And even to mention what you said before, just breaking out of that pattern of the family you're in as well. Moving on and being a solopreneur entrepreneur is a very different field to having that set salary. So just broadening it and taking it for there. And Sam, I have one final question to ask you before we log out. So if you could go back in time, maybe to the start of your own entrepreneurship journey, and you could only leave yourself with one piece of advice moving forward, something you know now, but that you didn't know then, what would you say to yourself?
I think that this is so cringy and stereotypical, but I do believe genuinely that we set our own limitations. I think that whenever you're growing up, whatever you have modeled for you is often what you think reality is, and it's what you believe your future has to look like. And I think that for all of the shitty things that social, or can I say that?
Yeah.
For all of the shitty things that social media has plagued society with, the one really great thing is that you have this view of the whole world and that you genuinely can choose whatever path you want and whatever future that you want for yourself. You don't have to set these arbitrary fake limitations. And it's much better to go for it and say that you tried and fail than wonder what it could have been like if you did actually go for it.
I love it. Awesome. And what a great way to end the podcast. Sam, thank you so much. And thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing your incredible journey and insight with us. Where can our listeners reach out to work with you, connect with you, and just check out all the amazing work that you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I got a growing audience over there, and you can stay up to date with all of my shenanigans.
Beautiful. Sam and her shenanigans is what we should name the episode. But thank you again for joining us. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to go and check out Sam. And do not forget to subscribe to Founders Future via wherever you listen to your favourite podcasts. And if you are a business owner, specifically a coach, consultant, or agency owner, and you're really looking to scale your business and you want to enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to hop on a call with one of our team and discover how we went from zero to $30 million per year in less than 3 years. But until then, keep on climbing and we will see you on the next one.